On August 20th, Bloomberg reported that Broadcom is arranging roughly $100 billion of debt, 60 to 70 billion senior, another 30 billion junior. Almost none of it will appear on Broadcom's balance sheet. And yet, within days, the cost of insuring Broadcom's debt hit a record, 122 basis points. So here is the question worth answering. Why would the credit market reprice a company for borrowing that, on paper, it did not do?
Start with the structure, because the structure is the whole story. The debt is not being issued by Broadcom. It is being issued by special purpose vehicles, separate legal entities created for this transaction that sit outside the parent's consolidated accounts. The vehicle borrows. The vehicle buys the chips. The vehicle owns them, and then it leases them to the customer, in this case names including Anthropic. Broadcom's role is to supply the silicon and arrange the whole thing. What it does not do is carry the loan. Under consolidation rules, if the vehicle is genuinely independent enough, its borrowing is not the parent's borrowing. That is not a loophole. It is a standard piece of structured finance, used for decades in aircraft, shipping, and energy. What is new here is the collateral. This time, the asset being financed is a fleet of custom AI accelerators.
Now look at where the risk actually lands, because it does not vanish. The senior tranche, the 60 to 70 billion, carries partial guarantees from Broadcom. The junior tranche, around 30 billion, does not. That asymmetry tells you who is expected to absorb losses first, and it tells you exactly where Broadcom drew its line. A guarantee is a specific accounting object. It is a contingent liability, a promise that becomes a debt only if the vehicle fails to pay. Until then, it does not sit in the debt line. It sits in the notes, which means the reported leverage ratio and the actual economic exposure are now two different numbers, and only one of them is on the front page of the filing. Bank of America put it plainly. Rising contingent liabilities are a ratings factor, and some agencies have already adjusted.
So the accounting says one thing. Here is what the market said. Broadcom's credit default swap moved to 122 basis points, a record. Its bonds widened 20 to 45 basis points against comparable issuers. A credit default swap is just insurance on debt, quoted as an annual premium. At 122 basis points, insuring $10 million of Broadcom exposure costs about $122,000 a year. Before this, it cost meaningfully less. Nothing on the balance sheet changed to justify that. What changed is that the people who price default risk for a living read the structure and decided the guarantee is real. The spread is, quite literally, the running price of the gap between the accounting treatment and the economic one.
Which raises the obvious question. Why go to this trouble? 3 reasons, and none of them are accounting cosmetics. First, the chips are collateral. A custom accelerator with a signed lease behind it is a financeable asset with a contracted cash flow. That is paper Apollo and Blackstone can actually buy, and both are in talks to participate. Second, it converts the customer's capital problem into Broadcom's sales channel. Anthropic does not need $100 billion of its own to get the hardware. It needs a lease. Third, and this is the competitive part, it lets Broadcom compete with NVIDIA on financing terms, not only on silicon. June's roughly $35 billion arrangement with the same 2 firms was the pilot. This is the scaled version.
So here is the move, stated plainly. This is not Broadcom taking on $100 billion of debt. It is Broadcom renting out its balance sheet, lending its credit standing to a structure it does not consolidate, in exchange for volume it could not otherwise book. Whether that is prudent depends on one number that is not in the press release. How much of the senior tranche the guarantee actually covers. 3 things are worth tracking. What share of that senior tranche is guaranteed, whether the ratings agencies treat the contingent liability as debt, and the swap spread, which will keep quoting every day how much the market disagrees with the accounting. The structure is legal, conventional, and old. The asset class is none of those things.